The future is coming. The future is in many ways already here. That's what we're going to discuss today because I've got a lot of topics on it. EV adoption is down. Oh, wait, maybe it's up. Some players are going to be shuffling some seats around in terms of who's in first and who's in worst. These are all things to come. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. Well, if I'm going to talk about the future, I have to speak with Randy Kirk, who has been through a number of technological shifts throughout your lifetime. You've seen a lot of trends come and go, and I'm sure you've seen
printing press.
Yeah. Back when you and your friend, I assume the Bible was printed by Steve Gutenberg.
Yes, Steve. Yeah.
From Police Academy. He's a great fellow with a real flair for class.
I thought it was a good idea at the time. I suggested that, he might want to use it for porn, but he wanted to use it for something good.
So that explains why it is 90% that. It's terrible news. Randy Kirk here. We've got some terrible news. Navigating the EV transition across the UK, EU, and US, declining residual values, I guess. China's competition and CO2 regulation. And then we've got this gem here as well, showing the other side. Now, of course, you guys, the EVs are falling off a cliff, but the end of gas cars, EV adoption accelerates across America. Oh, wait.
What?
It's accelerating. Despite a swell of new EV offering, EVs made up less than 2% of car sales in North Dakota, Mississippi, and Louisiana in the first half of 2024, but 10 times that amount in states like California, Colorado, and Washington. You and I live on the coast. Teslas don't get a second look, right?
Don't get a second look.
I mean, nobody looks at it and goes, wow, a Tesla.
No, because they're everywhere.
They're absolutely everywhere. So if we look at the global trend, EVs and plug-ins reached a new record. Sales of fully electric and hybrids went up 30% last month. The old guard is still of the mistaken impression that hybrids will save them. Over the short term, it may. Numbers are growing. How can that be, Randy?
How can they grow? Which one? The hybrids or the EVs or both?
Both. How can they grow? How can they grow? I've been told by many very loud people, not experts so much, but they make up for it in volume, that it's impossible. What's going on?
Yeah, so look, there's no doubt that 2020, late 2023 and all of 2024, we have seen a slowdown in the increasing percentage of vehicles, but it's still increasing. EVs as a percentage of all vehicles being sold is still increasing. And, Tesla has had a flat year. We'll end up with a flat year in 2024 in terms of their total unit sales. But we're looking around and seeing Mercedes, BMW, Audi, Volkswagen, Stellantis all laying off people and basically having all kinds of trouble because their ICE vehicles aren't selling either. So it's been a rough year in the automotive industry, in particular in United States and Europe. Not as tough in China, which interestingly has had a rough financial, maybe even a rougher financial year overall. But the cars are selling well. The Teslas are selling well. EVs are selling well. And even hybrids are selling well. I think there's a major issue in this fight between hybrids and EVs. And I think it comes down mostly to all of these, what do you want to call it? These stimulus methods that are being used by governments. So if you go around the world, you've got the United States with the $7,500 credit that you can get for either an EV or a hybrid. Well, it's what is a manufacturer going to do? They're going to push the hybrids if they got the deal on either one. You go to Europe, they reduced the number of opportunities for these kinds of reductions. Especially in Germany, which is one of the countries that's been hardest hit with regard to slowing EV sales. So you've got the government playing around seems to have more to do with where EVs are right now than the actual interest by the public.
Okay. It's interesting that, by the way, it's worth noting, I'll share this here, that the hybrids do not appear to qualify for 7,500, but rather 3,750.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Oh, no, the Pacifica does get 7,500. Yes. Interesting.
Yeah.
But on this list of eligible vehicles, the majority are EVs with only a handful of hybrids, but they will prioritize those. I did have a person ask me in the comments on YouTube yesterday. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to leave comments. I do read them. Said if in the coming year or two, the IRA goes away, so there is no incentives left for the purchase of EVs or even hybrids necessarily, and the mandates go away, what will happen? And I said, and my conclusion was at that point, we have no carrot and we have no stick. What I would see happen, they said, wouldn't manufacturers just shift to making the better, cheaper car? And I'd say, yeah, but if they could build the better, cheaper car, they would already be doing it. What this means is they would go back to building gas guzzlers, because why wouldn't they? That's what they know how to do. They're good at making high margin gas guzzlers, and they would give up their position in the world market. Those are vehicles they can't sell in Asia, in Europe, in China very specifically. They wouldn't be able to sell any of them. Those vehicles are already on their way out the door. So what would it mean if there's no carrot and no stick? It would mean that not many U.S. companies would be likely to survive past 2030. And
worse than that. So Elon said something over the last week. Can't remember exactly which day. He said that there's only two companies that have survived, that have not gone bankrupt in the United States over the last 100 years, Ford and Tesla. And he said that he thinks that even Tesla might have gone bankrupt if it wasn't for FSD. So for
FSD.
For FSD / automated driving / robotaxi. So I take a little issue, and I took a little issue on my show when I quoted this. I took a little issue with him. It seems to me that the cars standing on their own are good enough that they might have still been successful in this market. But I bought my car partly on FSD. Quite frankly, it was partly on the hope, the expectation that the car might be something I could sell, put out and make me money someday. And a lot of folks made the decision based on that. This to be true. People like Whole Mars, are already out there, doing rides right now. So there's a bunch of people that bought it based on FSD and the future of robotaxi, and then there is, and then there's the underlying value just for the idea of electric, good-looking, space age, great car. And I think it would have succeeded anyway. But that is his own words.
Yeah. Interesting. I disagree, but he's made a number of claims that are hyperbolic. So I don't know. I think the ZEV credits were more instrumental in injecting cash. The majority of the funds that were received from FSD were not recognizable, but the underlying purchase absolutely still counts. They are very good cars. That's an interesting point to consider. Thoughts in the comments, share them, won't you? But we're here to talk about the future, Randy. So we, of course, must talk about the true leader in EVs. No, not that one. The other one, the one you didn't guess, Renault.
No.
Renault presents entire EV ecosystem at the Paris Auto Show. Yes, we're talking about, I guess, a snow scooter, I guess is what that is. A plane, a little camper, a little e-bike, and this little Renault car here. Yeah. So this is great. This is a full lineup of electric vehicles from Renault that will never be made. Let's be honest. So this is the future, a future, not our future. I mean, come on, it's adorable. You will never make this. I love it. I love it. It's what designers could do. I love the duck bill at the front. That's great. Just chomping through the water there. This is not going to happen. The future, Randy, is it here? Are we looking at it?
So here's the problem for Renault, and I've gone through this in my company, even as small as we were, only at 5 million in sales. For Renault, who makes $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 vehicles, to turn around and start making $5,000 mopeds or $4,000 snowmobiles, it's not in much less quantities, where the TAM is lower. You can't get the staff interested. You can't get the folks to concentrate on it because the numbers are so much lower than your principal products. And I think this is what's kept Elon from getting into HVAC. I think this is what's slowing down insurance. The insurance thing, at least it's something that is a coordinatable thing that's going to help sell cars. But even there, I think if they were focused, if that's all they did, if insurance was what was going to make their day, and it wasn't ever going to be cars or anything else, they would have already solved the insurance thing. They would have found a way with these regulators nationwide to get it into these various states. But it's like way down on the list. So no, I agree with you. I don't think Renault will make any of those things.
Well, we've got one more big story to share, and it is the dumbest one of all, if you can believe it, if it is even possible. This Joe Ditzel presents Tesla introduces the Thunderstorm, a classic V8 beast for the new age. And with this gorgeous AI generated picture of, I'm guessing it's 4 blowers on 3 cylinders per side, plus I guess 2 hidden ones. It's great. It's V8. And then you read this article, which has no hint of sarcasm. Maybe it's hidden in the part where you have to pay money to read it. Well, I'm not going to pay money. I went to the Internet Archives and found it's just garbage. There's no reality, no truth to it. So I wondered who the heck. This is the archive page of it. So I went ahead and looked up who is this author, and he fancies himself a comedian.
I see. Okay.
But I went ahead and checked out his comedy, and there is no humor to it. In fact, if we scroll down here, we'll see no views, no views, no views.
I see.
So being a clean comedian is great, but you forgot the comedian part, Joe Ditzel. It is, you have to, when you make, I've written probably 1,000 satire articles in my time. And the key is you have to at least wink at the audience. There has to be a joke. If the whole joke is, I lied, the joke is on the audience. So you may be a clean comedian, but you're not a good comedian. And that is the wrong approach. If the audience is the butt of the joke, I have viewers who have contacted me and said, is this true? Joe, that's not funny. Yeah. That's bad. That's bad. The joke needs to be sufficiently evident that at least 80, 90% of the crowd goes, haha, good one.
Got it.
And then you have a venue in which to put more jokes, and you didn't. That's, oh man, in my writing, a little lesson for the comedy writers out there. The lesson is every sentence needs to contain at least 1 joke, preferably 2 or 3.
Oh.
And in a script, the ideal setup is at worst setup to punchline to setup to punchline, but really punchline to punchline to punchline to punchline. Because not every joke is going to land. And if you only put in a joke a minute and you have a 20% land rate, that's a joke every 5 minutes. That, my friend, is what we call 2.5 men. It's terrible. It is not how comedy works.
Now, I fancy myself a comedian. You know this. And the folks that follow me on my channel commonly say that my Tesla stock predictions are the best comedy that they ever read. Yeah.
That's great. That's a quality joke. It's got a good setup. It draws you in. It gives you the twist. It's good. It's good. But it didn't land. So what you need to do is, have joke to joke to joke. It's great. When I would make my How It's Really Made videos, I would sometimes have 4 jokes in a sentence.
Wow.
And not everyone's going to get all the jokes. They don't have to, but someone's going to get something all the time. All right. So with that said, what do we miss? What do we misunderstand? Leave it. Head over to Randy Kirk's channel, see what he's up to. Stay tuned, stay juicy. And I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots all up on that flippity flop.